Where there's thunder, there's lightning. John Nada. Wanted to take a moment to illustrate to you the point of AWOL from my own personal experience. A girl that I had kind of seen a while back, I couldn't really consider it a dating relationship. We kind of saw each other off and on for a period of 4 months. And in that period of time, it was pretty much a purely physical arrangement. You know, I didn't take this girl on dates, really. We didn't go out and do things as a couple. Pretty much every time we got together, it was, as I said, just purely physical and sexual in nature. Now, one of the things that I learned from this girl is at some point early on in us getting to know each other, and I met her off of one of those dating apps, dating sites or whatever. And almost immediately she began sending, kind of lewd texts, just things of a sexual nature, and sent me one or two kind of not full on out nude photos, but, photos that were suggestive enough. And I say all that to say this, the guy that she ended up with. Now, one of the points that was brought up early on in knowing her is that she had asked me how many people I've been with. And of course, I told her. And then she hesitated to tell me. And I never actually got a number from her. Not that I was interested in getting a number from her. Not that she would have told me the truth about the number of people she'd slept with. But it just was telling to me that she knew, it was like instinctively she knew that there was something wrong with the amount of people that she had just slept with casually. And so that told me that the number had to be pretty high. And when I first met her, we more or less on the first date, the first time I met her was just kind of a meeting in person. We'd never met one another before, and so we just kind of met somewhere for coffee or whatever. And the second time, I actually took her out to a restaurant. And so on the first date, we ended up going out to this restaurant. She goes back to my place, and we end up having sex. And there were actually one or two more times where we went out, and she actually paid for me. And I say all that to say, the guy that she's engaged to, and you could just kind of tell by looking at him, he's kind of got that soylent grin kind of look to him. And the thing is I'm sure he's a great guy. I'm sure he treats her wonderfully. But he has no idea what he's getting himself into by marrying this girl. Because they've been dating, I think, about a year. And so to me, I think a year of dating somebody is really not a long enough amount of time to know that much about somebody. But the point is, that is the prize in the end for most men. And here you have this guy that she was admittedly kind of not all that attracted to, but he was stable and he met her emotional needs. And she had already been engaged once before, about a year or two before this guy proposes. And I think, honestly, she felt like she missed out on her chance with the other guy, whom she broke the engagement off with. And so this was kind of her chance at redemption. The wall was closing in on her. But it just goes to show, here this guy is thinking that he's, won the golden goose. But in reality, and the other thing is I think they dated for about a month, or they knew each other for about a month before they ever actually became girlfriend and boyfriend. So what took me less than, a couple days to get, it took him a month or more. Hammering home the point that some guys will work and toil months to get the same thing that somebody else walked in the door and got. So now he's got this girl that he's engaged to that's, approaching the wall. She's gained quite a bit of weight, has a lot of emotional issues, has slept with numerous men, and has slept with a lot of men right out of the gate. But yet he thinks that he's getting some prize. And that's the reality that is out there. I mean, that's more or less what the situation is for most guys. You're getting a 1985 BMW, several years, market value has dropped. It's got a little bit of the struts aren't quite right. The alignment's off. It's got a weird sound coming from the transmission. But hey, it's a BMW. Whereas somebody got that BMW at some point, fresh off the lot, new car smell, drove it around, had the value of it depleted, and then got rid of it. But that's the reality that most guys are looking at in the dating world. The guys that, they think that they've really won something. The guys that think, oh man, I've really made it. I knew that if I was patient enough, eventually my time would come. And in the end, all they have gained is somebody's financial baggage, somebody's emotional baggage. And if the statistics are to be believed, if what we know to be true is true, eventually, a couple years down the road, she gets bored, decides to divorce him, and then he's worse for wear at that point. Women can really ruin your life, guys. In another example, a guy that I worked with, and he had been with the company for at least 3 years. So this wasn't somebody that had just walked on. He had been there. He was established. He'd had a job for quite some time and had experience. Without going into too much detail, this guy lost his job not because of something he did, but because of something his girlfriend did. His girlfriend ran afoul of some legal troubles, and the company kind of found out about it, and it was just kind of one of those protecting the reputation of the company. In the interest of doing what's good for the company, we're going to have to let you go. Now, they didn't fire him, and they didn't lay him off. They graciously allowed him to resign. But I mean, how foolish would most of us feel? I know I'd feel pretty foolish if all that I'd worked for, the job that I'd had for 3 years now, all the time, energy, and effort that went into getting that job, the pre-preparation, the college, and everything else, only to see it done away with like a wisp in the wind due to a woman I was dating. But see, that's, again, the risk you take. And no one out there will care. The woman that you lose your job for won't care. In fact, she'll probably leave you, and that'll be the next thing. Because solipsism is hardwired into women. You have to think there was a time when life was very brutal, and it is still very brutal, depending on where you go in the world. And so women had to develop these mechanisms because in an instant, an infant could be taken away through famine, disease, or warfare. In an instant, their husband could be killed, and the conquering tribe could come in. And they still had to secure resources for themselves and their children. Survival, the survival mechanisms is a very powerful thing. So solipsism has been hardwired into the female mind in order to deal with these harsh realities that existed and, as I mentioned, still may exist in some parts of the world. So that really explains a lot as to why women are so good and able to move so quickly away from, being hurt once a relationship ends into being all right about it, being indifferent, being apathetic. It explains a lot of what I've experienced over the years, where you date a girl and they say they care about you and there's all this emotion and it seems to be that there's a strong bond and this strong relationship that you have built. and then the next thing you know, they meet some guy and they, it gets broken off, or you break up with them for whatever reason, and 3 weeks later they're in the arms of someone else. This is the solipsism that they have developed to maintain their place and maintain their survival. So it really illustrates that whole point of women can never really love you, and women are very unfeeling, very indifferent, very cold creatures. There was a point that I was unable to bring up in one of the last videos, and it was an article I had seen where they had let women out of prison for Mother's Day, or they had, I don't know if they let all of them out, but they let some of them out for Mother's Day. And that just shows you right there that gynocentrism is not a figment of the Mgtow's imagination. Because they certainly wouldn't do that for fathers. And in fact, fathers really aren't even kind of a recognized category in the West anymore. I mean, the way that the whole child support thing works, and you've probably seen the meme on the internet where it shows, single mothers who can't support their kids, this is their housing, and it shows, kind of a government housing complex, and single fathers who are unable to support their kids, this is their housing, and it shows a prison cell. There was a point that got brought up the other day that I had read, and I really think that this illustrates things very nicely. And it really illustrates what I feel like I'm doing here. And a lot of people have asked me to monetize the channel. And I'm not going to criticize the people that do monetize their channel, because everybody has their reasons for monetizing their channel or not monetizing their channel. That's the whole thing about going your own way. But one of the reasons that I just have no interest in that is one, I feel like that by doing so, I might be tempted to change my message, or I might be tempted to pander to this group or that group. And on every video without fail, there's always, a couple dislikes, which I always kind of laugh about, because I'm like, who on earth is possibly disliking any of this? I mean, all I'm doing is speaking the truth, and the truth that's pretty verifiable, and truth that can be seen if one opens their eyes long enough. But there's always going to be those people out there that they know what you're saying is exactly true. They know what you're saying has no falseness in it, but they still don't like it. And so, one of the reasons that I haven't ever even considered monetizing the channel is because I don't want to in any way interfere with just speaking the truth. And the other thing is that, by monetizing the channel and all that, I really feel like my channel, and I feel like the channels of others, Mgtow content is a hospital and not a hospice. I get a lot more out of just having the wounded and the sick and the weary come into this harbor, come into this tavern out of the rain to get respite, to get recovery. So many men come in and they are here to heal, and here to have a voice, but here to also listen to what others are saying about what they've gone through as well. And so this gives them a chance to rest up. This gives them a chance to take stock of their life and rebuild and revitalize themselves, so that they can go back out into the world much stronger than they came out of it. Mgtow is a hospital and not a hospice. We don't come here to give up. We don't come here to die. Rather, we come here to get well, to get stronger, and to go back out and start living our lives the way that they were always intended to be, and that's by going our own way. So guys, welcome to the hospital, and your discharge day will come soon. And as always, go your own way or don't. The choice is yours.